We're good? Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the public hearing for July 18th. And we have a quorum. I will call the meeting to order. The time is 7 o'clock. Madam Clerk, can you please provide an overview of procedures for tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. This public hearing is being held pursuant to sections 464 and 465 of the Local Government Act. The public hearing is being live streamed and recorded and will be available to the public for playback on the city website in accordance with Council Policy 3.12. The purpose of a public hearing is to allow all persons who believe that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaw that is the subject of the hearing. Council's role in a public hearing is to listen. This is not a forum for debate or comment by council, nor for gestures or remarks of support or opposition from council. All persons who believe that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaws will be asked to provide their name and address for the record before beginning their remarks to give council an idea of proximity to the application. Please note that comments can only be accepted regarding bylaws that are subject of this public hearing. For members of the public attending the public hearing in person who would like to speak, please approach the podium when the chair calls for public input. Please clearly state your name and address for the record before beginning your comments. For privacy reasons, if you do not wish to state your address, please write it down on a piece of paper and pass it to the corporate officer. If you are participating electronically, please register as a speaker by using the raise hand icon. And when called upon, turn on your camera and clearly state your name and address before beginning your comments. Again, for privacy reasons, if you do not wish to state your address, please write your address in the chat function. The corporate officer will confirm whether the statutory requirements for the public hearing have been met. Planning Department staff will give a presentation on the item, after which the chair will issue 3 calls for public comment on the bylaws. Each person wishing to speak will be allotted 5 minutes to speak per call to a maximum of 15 minutes. Speakers are asked to provide their name and address before beginning their comments and to address only the issue at hand. Staff will respond to technical questions where possible. After the public hearing has been closed, council cannot receive any further communication, written or verbal, regarding the public hearing item. Further consideration of bylaws on this agenda will take place at the next regular council meeting.
Thank you very much. Before we proceed, I'd like to start the meeting off in a good way by acknowledging that the city of Maple Ridge carries out its business on the traditional and unceded territory of the Katzie First Nation and the Kwantlen First Nation. We'll now begin the public hearing. Madam Clerk, can you please introduce the first item and confirm whether the statutory requirements have been met?
Thank you. The first item on tonight's agenda is application 2023-0599-RZ. The subject application and associated bylaw, Maple Ridge Zone Amending Bylaw number 7925-2023, is to permit the rezoning of the subject property at 28304 96th Avenue from RS3, Single Detached Rural Residential, and P4, Place of Worship, to RS3, Single Detached Rural Residential, to allow the change of use of the existing building from a place of worship, a church, to a single family dwelling. The statutory requirements have been met for this public hearing with notices posted in the July 7 and 14 editions of the local newspaper. 13 notices were mailed out and 0 pieces of correspondence were received in relation to this application. And planning staff have a presentation for this item.
Step on up, sir.
Mayor Rumi and council and public. The application before you is an area designated rural residential, and the existing zoning is RS3, single detached rural residential, and P4, place of worship. Proposed zoning is RS3, single detached rural residential on the western portion of the property. The existing site area is 0.88 acres or about 0.32 hectares. And basically the purpose of the application to rezone the western portion of the property is to allow the use of the place of worship building that exists there as a single family dwelling. This is a subject property on the cadastral map on 96th Avenue. Subject property with a rural residential designation covering the subject property and the area around. This is a subject property with the ortho photo showing the existing built environment on the lot and the surrounding area. I think we're having a little, I think I need assistance advancing the slide.
There we go.
Thank you. As noted, the application to rezone the western portion of the subject site to RS3 single detached rural residential to allow the change of use of the existing place of worship building to a single family dwelling. The OCP designation is rural residential and supports the rezoning application. The site is split zone with RS3 zoning on the east and P4 zoning on the west. The existing building has operated church for quite some time, is not being used for a place of worship for several years now. The subject site is a rectangular lot bounded by single-family residentials to north, east, and west, as noted on the previous map, and no further development of this property is proposed by this application. Should the application proceed to completion, there would be a development variance permit required to reduce the west interior lot line setback from 1.5 meters to 1.38 meters. This is for the existing building, just to bring it into conformance with the bylaw. And the requested variance would be a subject of a future council report. This is the property here, just showing the significant trees in the center of the property and the existing place of worship building in the northwest corner, which is proposed to be converted to a single family dwelling. So the only terms and conditions are that this application be forwarded to this public hearing, your worship and council.
Thank you very much. Now we'll do a call. Does any member of the public in chambers wish to comment on this item? Or does anybody online, is there anybody online that wish to comment? Seeing none, I will put out a second call. Does anybody in chambers or online wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, and we'll do a third and final call. Does anybody in chambers or online wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I will call this public hearing item closed. Moving on to the next item. Madam Clerk, can you please introduce the next item and confirm whether the statutory requirements have been met?
Thank you. The next item on tonight's agenda is application 2017-002-RZ. The subject application and associated bylaw, Maple Ridge zone amending bylaw number 7943-2023, is to permit the rezoning of the subject property located at 24487 112 Avenue from RS3 single detached rural residential to RS1B single detached medium density residential, utilizing the Albion density bonus to permit R1 single detached low density urban residential size lots with minimum lot areas of 371 square meters to allow the future subdivision of the southern portion of the site to 24 RS-1B sized lots. The second bylaw associated with this application is Maple Ridge Official Community Plan amending bylaw number 7944-2023, a bylaw to expand the boundaries of the area that is designated conservation. The statutory requirements have been met for this public hearing with notices in the July 7 and 14 editions of the local newspaper. 52 notices were mailed out and one piece of correspondence was received in relation to this application, and planning staff have a presentation.
And you're there. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Rumi and Council. The existing designation for the properties low, medium density residential, low density residential, and conservation under the official community plan designation, the Northeast Albion Plan. The existing zoning is RS3 single detached rural residential, and the proposed zoning is RS3 single detached residential, RS1B single detached medium density residential, which will be shown on a subsequent map. The site area in total is approximately 11.3 acres and 25 lots, including the remainder lot is proposed. This is a subject property showing Dunlop Creek running through the property to the center and the upper portion of the property. This is the official community plan context map, just showing the residential designations and the conservation designation, tracing the approximate setbacks to the creek as shown in the official community plan, and agricultural land reserve to the north of the site. This is a subject property just on the orthophoto showing the built environment of a newer subdivision to the west and the treed site here and rural residential to the east. It's noted this application is a rezone southern portion of the site to RS1B single detached medium density residential to permit the construction of 24 RS1B lots utilizing the Albion density bonus to achieve R1 size lots, which is permitted in the bylaw. And those are 371 square meter minimum lot size lots. And there would also be the dedication of 14,205 square meters approximately of conservation area park to the city. There's also a remainder, that's the 25th lot that would be shown on a subsequent map that's remaining under the current zoning. This proposal was originally presented to council in 2017 after there's been further geotech and environmental impacts estimates for quite a while examined by the staff. There's a new developable area that has been found to be satisfactory to the city, and that is being put forward in the present zoning amending bylaw 7943/2023. There's been some changes to the layout to incorporate more conservation area. I should just note that actually the dedicated conservation areas proposed is approximately double what is in the plan on that previous map. It's about double the conservation area that was originally shown in the map once we've had the detailed environmental and geotechnical reports done. And then finally, the development of the northern portion of the site may be done in the future with a rezoning application on its own or in association with other properties to the east, but is being left under its current zoning. That's the 25th lot or remainder lot. And as noted, the large expansion of the conservation area by basically about 7,000 square meters to the 14,000 square meters, doubling it, requires an amendment to the OCP to expand the conservation areas in the OCP. So the Albion area density bonus to achieve the R1 size lots or 371 square meter lots at $3,100 a lot would be approximately a total of $74,400 if the application proceeds to completion. It's also a community amenity contribution of $5,100 per lot for an estimated $127,500 for each lot. There are frontage upgrades to 112th Avenue to install a multi-use pathway. That's what a MUP is, and upgrade the existing ditch to a bioswale. There's a watercourse protection and natural features development permits required before the subdivision would be approved, and an enhancement maintenance agreement to ensure the implementation and restoration of all the areas that are environmentally sensitive and where the parks are carried out in accordance with the city's requirements. It's also the planting and compensation of a minimum of 52 trees in the developable area that's outside of the creek corridor conservation area. And there was a development information meeting on May 12, 2023. Concerns related to loss of green space, increased traffic, and lack of amenities in the area, the proposed lot layout being brought forward at that time. The development variance application is being received for this application also, and that would be to relax the arterial street standards for 112th Avenue fronting the property due to existing topographic and geotechnical environmental constraints. And any variance for the road standards would be brought forward to council as a separate report. Just knowing that there's also to be incorporated in there a multi-use pathway, a paved multi-use pathway, also within that 112th Avenue alignment. So this is a subdivision plan showing basically the 24 lots extending off the streets that are in the existing developed area to the west. And then basically being bounded by the conservation area to be dedicated as park to the city through the center of the property. And then finally, at the northeastern portion of the property, a remainder lot or the 25th lot, which may be developed at another time under another application. So the terms and conditions of the rezoning application are quite long, so I'll just do a very short summary of them. First of all, that the previous zoning amending bylaw from 2017, 7310, 2017 be rescinded, that the official community plan amending bylaw 7944, 2023 be considered in conjunction with the capital plan and waste management plans, and that they're considered to be consistent with those said plans, and that the official community plan amending bylaw 7944, 2023 was given first and second reading on June 27th. Again, this amending bylaws to expand the conservation area by approximately double as previously noted. And that the zone amending bylaw before you, 794323, was given first and second reading on June 27th and forwarded to this public hearing. And then very summarily, the conditions that are on you on the screen include rezoning of a registration of rezoning servicing agreement and restrictive covenant and security for the servicing works required for the subdivision. an amendment to the OCP to amend the conservation area, which is the OCP amendment bylaw that had been noted on the previous slide. Road dedication on 112th as required, dedication of the conservation area, which is a large park conservation area traversing along Dunlop Creek. Registration of restrictive covenant for a geotechnical report that addresses the slope stability and requirements for the subdivision. Covenant for stormwater management, removal of an existing building straddling the eastern property line, and notification of the Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans and Ministry of Environment for any required in-stream works. And then a standard condition is that we ensure that the site disclosure statement be submitted by professional engineering if there's any evidence of underground fuel storage tanks on the subject property. And if there are none to be found, that is the end of the process. If any are found, then a stage 1 environmental report would be done, which is a standard requirement if any underground storage tanks are found. And then a voluntary contribution of approximately 127,000 for this application under the community amenity contributions policy of the city, and a density bonus contribution of approximately $74,100 for each lot utilizing the density bonus under the zoning bylaw. Your worship and council.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to ask if any member in the chambers or online would like to speak to this item. Seeing none, I will do a second call. Does anybody in the chambers or online wish to speak to this item? I'm not seeing anybody online. And I'll do a third and final call. Anybody wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I will call this public hearing item closed. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, can you please introduce the next item and confirm whether the statutory items have been met?
Thank you. The next item on tonight's agenda is application 2020-369RZ. The subject application and associated bylaw, Maple Ridge Zone Amending Bylaw number 7684-2020, is to permit the rezoning of the subject property located at 12478 223rd Street from RS3 single detached medium density residential to RS-1B single detached medium density residential to allow for a future subdivision of 2 lots. The statutory requirements have been met for this public hearing with notices in the July 7 and 14 editions of the local paper. 37 notices were mailed out and 0 pieces of correspondence were received in relation to this application.
Thank you very much. Mr. Goddard, you have the floor.
Thank you, council. Our third item this evening is a 2-lot split at the above address there. It's almost a 1/4 acre. RS3 to RS1B is the proposal here. They're in their urban designation for creation of 2 lots. That shows the site there. There's another application across the street to subdivide as well. Urban designation shown there. There's the neighborhood context, overhead view, 1 house on the property now. Again, we're rezoning the site from RS1B to create 2 lots. The proposed subdivision is for 2, and the minimum lot sizes are going, the lots created are going to be about 6,100 square feet and 6,122 square feet. So they're quite large lots still. They'll be RS1B in this area. The proposed will require 2 parking stalls minimum for each lot, although there will be a driveway that will allow more parking. No visitor parking is required in this case because they're single family homes. Bike parking will be provided in course in the homes and the garages most likely. There will be a community amenity charge for 1 new lot here of $7,100. There is the proposed layout of the 2 lots facing onto 223rd. Again, we're at its public hearing. It's been given 2nd reading and 1st. It's now the public hearing for the zoning bylaw. We're recommending it move forward under the following terms. Normal servicing agreements required for the offsite works, preservation of an existing white oak tree in the front yard on lot 2 as a condition, registration of a covenant for stormwater management. The site is found clean. It's not affected by contamination in any sense through the Site 1 profile investigation. We have a voluntary contribution for the $7,100 for the new lot. And that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll open it up. Does any member of the public wish to comment on this item, either in chamber or online? Okay, we see that we have 1 person online, Olivia Krowicka. Can you turn your camera on, please? Hello. Hi. You
How's
have
it going? I live across the street from this property. So just want to say there's just one correction to what you've said. There is no house on this property at this point. That house has been torn down. So there isn't a house there right now. And honestly, I oppose subdividing these lots on the grounds that our street is already quite full. There's already a lot of density on this street, and further driving it up, similar to how you've done across majority of Maple Ridge, is simply isn't going to work for our community at this point. Not only that, this is not what we were told was going to be happening to this property by the person whose family owns this property. So it's disingenuous that they want to continue to subdivide it and push further density onto a already busy street. The other thing is the houses that are continuously being built on Maple Ridge are being built on to the absolute maximum capacity of these properties. And so the concern there is that you're creating densification in an area that's already quite dense. Majority of the residents on the street own at least minimum 5 vehicles per household. Some of those vehicles spill onto the street. It's making the street undrivable. So if you continue theoretically, if you build 2 more homes onto the street, that will increase the volume of vehicles and traffic, which the street's already pretty packed. So yeah, that's it. The other thing is, like, you're ruining the character of some of our streets already. None of these homes look like each other. The streets look like a hodgepodge of various styles and mixes, and it's ruining the character of our neighborhoods. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Your comments have been noted. Anybody in chambers wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'll do a second call. Anybody in chambers or online wish to speak to this item? And seeing none, I'll do a third and final call. Anybody wish to speak to this item in chambers or online? Seeing none, I will declare this public hearing item closed. Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please introduce the next item and confirm whether it's the statutory requirements have been met?
The next item on tonight's agenda is application 2021-411-RZ. The subject application and associated bylaw, Maple Ridge zoning amendment bylaw 7845-2022, is to permit the rezoning of the subject property located at 12392 Gray Street from RS1 single detached residential to R1 single detached low density urban residential, and to allow a future subdivision of 2 lots. The statutory requirements have been met for this public hearing with notices in the July 7 and 14 editions of the local newspaper. 31 notices were mailed out and 0 pieces of correspondence were received in relation to this application.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Goddard, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council. Our fourth item this evening is located at 12392 Gray Street. It is an urban residential property as well. RS1 to R1 being proposed. The site area is about 1/4 acre, about 10,000 square feet. And we have 2 lots being created here from 1. There's the outline of the property. There's our urban designation. And there's the context of the overhead view of the neighborhood. Again, we have it moving this time to R1, which are the 375 minimum lot areas. These lots being created, of course, are significantly larger than that. They're about 4,167 square feet, more or less, so a bit bigger. It's on Gray Street. The proposal is 2 lots, and each home will have 2 in-garage parking area. The visitor parking will be on the driveways, and any car electrical provided by the homeowners themselves. There is a community amenity charge of $7,100 for the new lot being created. There may be a development variance permit application required at some point when we go to final reading, and council will see that in a subsequent report. They're looking to reduce the minimum lot width of these properties slightly from 44 feet to 26.5 feet. And that's within the range of the approving officer typically will support in a subdivision. There's road dedication also on 124th Avenue that we'll have to review. So there's a subdivision plan. The division is east-west facing Gray Street, not 124th. There's a significant dedication on 124th Street, however, which does reduce the size of the lots to some degree. So we're recommending it move forward. It has had first and second reading, and it's its public hearing this evening for that zoning bylaw. We're recommending it move forward under a zoning servicing agreement for all off-site works. There'll be road dedication on 124th and at the intersection of Gray Street as well, corner truncation. There'll be a storm management covenant, the geotechnical covenant, and of course the CAC will have to be paid, and the removal of any buildings that may straddle a future property line. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll open it up. Does anybody in council chambers or online wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'll do a second call. Does anybody in chambers or online wish to speak to this item? And seeing none, I'll do the third and final call. Anybody in chambers or online wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I will call this public hearing item closed. Madam Clerk, can you please introduce the next item and confirm whether the statutory requirements have been met?
Thank you. The next item on tonight's agenda is application 2020-237 RZ. The subject application and associated bylaw, Maple Ridge zoning amending bylaw number 7844-2022, is to permit the rezoning of the subject property located at 11070 Lockwood Street, 24984, 25024, and 25038 112th Avenue from RS3 single detached rural residential to RM1 low density townhouse residential, RS1B single detached medium density urban residential, utilizing the Albion density bonus to permit R1 single detached low density urban residential size lots with minimum lot areas of 371 square meters, and RS2 single detached suburban residential to allow 37 single family lots and 102 townhouse units. The second bylaw associated with this application is Maple Ridge Official Community Plan amending bylaw number 7942-2023, a bylaw to expand the boundaries of the area that is designated conservation. The statutory requirements have been met for this public hearing with notices in the July 7 and 14 editions of the local newspaper. 35 notices were mailed out and 0 pieces of correspondence were received in relation to this application.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goddard. Once again, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Our final item tonight is again a zoning amendment bylaw in the northeast corner of Albion in the northeast area. It's townhouses, conservation, single family, and there's some suburban residential. Those land uses will remain, but in different forms, of course, with additional density. The existing zoning is RS3. This has to be changed to RM1, RS1B, which are the 557 lot sizes, as well as R1. And they'll be utilizing the density bonus provisions in the plan to actually reduce those lot sizes to the R1. There's also going to be an RS2 detached for one lot, which is the lot that actually straddles the urban and suburban boundary at the bottom. So that would be the southeast corner of the site. That lot will be the subject of future development, I think. Okay, so we have a site area of 18.24 acres. There is going to be 102 townhouses proposed with 37 single-family lots. This shows the 4 subject properties. This is essentially phase 3 of Epic's work in the northeast Albion area, I understand, with phase 4 to the south and maybe phase 5 to the west. There's the urban boundary, low, medium density residential there. We have suburban residential in the pale white, or pale yellow, I guess, in this case. There's the neighborhood plan. We have 2 water courses that are being preserved in the setback areas dedicated to the city as the application proceeds. Again, we have the property zoned RS2 and RS1B is moving to the new zones RM1 for 102 townhomes, and 37 single family lots. There's a future active park within 5 minutes of the area. There are also townhouses being proposed, 27 2-bedroom, 63 bedroom, and 15 4-bedroom units in total. The proposed parking is outlined here. Essentially, the single family homes have to have 2 per unit, as well as the townhouse sites are 1.7 shown here. The Albion density bonus is being achieved here to move those lots from RS1B to essentially the R1 size. And they're paying that fee of $114,700 to do that. There is also a density provision being provided in the townhomes to get the 102 lots, and that's $316,200 will be provided. There's also a community amenity charge based upon the units of $851,200, which will be required. There is also a development variance permit associated with this, and council will see this application when they come back for final reading in the future. There are some setback reductions here from 7.5 to 4.3 for the front yards facing the road. And there's some minimum landscaping areas of site variance there from 40 to 38%. These will be the subject of a future report. The development variance permit has been received, of course, and we will get that in the future, but these are variances that will be required to accommodate the single family homes. I won't go into every one. It will be detailed again in a future plan for council, and it's not the subject of the public hearing this evening. The site plan here shows the townhouse site only. The single family are to the south, but these are the units, 102 units separated between with green space. The water course area surrounds the middle portion of the site. Quick landscaping plan showing how the details may be built out. Again, these details will come before council as a development permit application, but these are the initial proposal we've received. So we're recommending the application proceed. There is a OCP amendment bylaw that has to be considered as well under bylaw 7942/2023. There is also a zoning amending bylaw 7844/2022 that has been given second and first reading, and it's at its public hearing as well this evening. We're recommending it move forward under the following terms, which are a rezoning servicing agreement for all offsite works. They'll have to amend the official community plan, the area Albion plan in the northeast quadrant of Albion, Schedule C of the OCP. Road dedication on Lockwood and 110th Avenue is required. Dedication of the conservation area. There's going to be a requirement as well to, that is actually not a condition. That condition has been removed from this condition. The park will come in a future date. Registration of a covenant, geotechnical covenant. There'll be environmental protection for any sensitive areas that are not dedicated. There's a wetland portion. Stat right of way is required for servicing. There will be a tree protection, stormwater management covenant, a no-build covenant will be placed on potentially lots 37 and 38 to await future development. Removal of an existing building, and the Ministry of Environment has determined there is no contamination on the sites through their stage 1 review. There's a voluntary contribution, as I said, of $81,200, and this is for the CACs. Then there is a density bonus provision paid of $316,200. And there's a density bonus provision of $114,700 for the RS1B to the R1 size for 37 lots. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you very much. And this time, anybody from the council chambers or online wish to speak to this item? I don't see anybody online and nobody in chambers at this point, so I'll do a second call. Anybody in chambers or online wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'll do a third and final call. Anybody in chambers or online wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I will call this public hearing item closed. And as we have no further business, I will adjourn for the evening. Thank you.